Hey guys, just a quick video here. I'm looking at doing various different things on the channel, like I said, and as always, if you could have a look at my other stuff, give me some feedback. If you think anyone could find use of the mental health videos, please spread it around. Any subscribers I do get, I'll be eternally grateful for. Any attention really. I mean, I love the fact that my animals are getting praise, and I'll do a lot more with that. I'm looking at getting a slightly smaller camera to find it easier to record those. But for this one, I just wanted to do a quick review on the Snow White film, the new one, 2025. I'm not taking into account any of the furor around Rachel Zegler, something like that. All the problems with her and her antics online. I'm solely just giving a quick overview of the film, the problems with it, the good points, and an overall score. So I'll break it down first. I have a subscription to like the Odeon one, so you can go as many times a month as you want for free, and that does alter my thinking a little bit, because when you go and watch a film and you pay 20 quid for, if it's mediocre, you still feel pretty let down or pretty irritated by it. Any noise you hear in my videos is always cats playing. I don't try and edit stuff or change stuff too often, because I just find I like the naturalness and it's my real life happening behind me. So unless it really makes an issue with the audio, or you guys find it frustrating if you do watch it, yeah, let us know either way. So yeah, if you see a mediocre or a lower sort of end film and you've paid 18, 19, 20 quid for, instantly you dislike it more than someone like me who can go for free. It's in walking distance, so for something to do for a couple of hours, stuff, unless it's absolutely terrible, it doesn't bother me quite as much. I mean, I went to see the Brutalist, which was like 3 and a bit hours, and I found that a very painful film to watch. But to be honest, 9 times out of 10, if something wins Oscars, I tend to give it a bit of a swerve, because it's likely to be pretentious and dull. So went to see this one. I have to admit, didn't have high hopes, because the live actions I found a bit hit or miss. I didn't love the first Lion King, but I thought Mufasa was all right. I liked Aladdin. I thought that was okay. Jungle Book was a bit of a flop. What was the other one? Beauty and the Beast was okay. But overall, in terms of like Disney quality and specialness, here's nifty. It wasn't there for me on many of those, so I didn't have high expectations. I do feel that How to Train Your Dragon later in the year is going to give better results than a lot of the Disney ones do. But this one didn't have high hopes for. I love the original. It was one of my favourites as a kid. I think some of the older animation ones, or 2D ones, are literally timeless. I mean, some of them won't be far off 100 years old later on. And to think how good they are still today is absolutely just mind-blowing, really, when you see how things come and go quickly out of culture nowadays, video games and films and music, etc. So the film itself, I'll start with some positives because there's less of them. The music, I thought, was in parts decent. Another Disney album where probably they'll do 12, 13 songs, probably another 30 bits of soundtrack that's been in the music, like background music and all that sort of stuff they normally add into it. But I think there was an opening song which wasn't too bad. I've re-listened to it, and actually it's quite a catchy one, but not one that'll stick around too long. There's one later in the film as well which is okay. The main two that will sort of stick in your head are Hi Ho with the dwarfs, or the whatever they're called in this movie, oh God knows, and Whistle While You Work. I found Rachel Zegler did have a really nice voice, and I'll give her that credit. I thought her voice was nice. I thought her speaking voice was very clear, which I like. Sometimes you get people with accents that I can't talk, obviously, but obviously you don't hear them as clearer, or they mumble a bit, but she had a nice speaking voice. I thought her singing was really nice. Other positives, parts of the design were really nice, like some of the colour schemes. The initial bit where she goes into the forest and it's a bit more like Alice in Wonderland-y style, that looked quite good. The castle itself looked okay. The singing and the musicality on the whole were decent. And that's kind of really where the positives end. For a Disney film, it's pretty weird that the outfits were terrible. I mean, Snow White is an iconic character. She has that iconic blue and yellow dress. I know they'd already got rid of the iconic her skin being white as snow, but overlooking that, it genuinely looked like a costume you'd go and get at a fancy dress party for like a 5-year-old for Halloween or for a birthday party or whatever. It didn't look good, and it came off at one point and like it floated in the air, and you could just tell it just looked absolutely terrible. I'm surrounded by like 4 cats at the moment. Sorry, they're all making noise. They just don't behave very well. Yeah, so the the costumes itself did not look good. Sorry if I do get distracted, I'll only be quick. The costumes themselves didn't look good. The townspeople looked very generic, like they were almost reusing things that have possibly been used on other films. They got in very, I don't know, just generic average people in the rest of the cast, to be fair. None of them really stood out. They weren't terrible actors. I thought the love interest, who was like a prince in a bit of a different style, I thought he was okay. He just found like very generic, though. It felt like if you do a video game and they create that just standard creator character thing, it just felt a bit like that. He didn't feel like he had much personality or he had much about him that made him special or memorable. His little ragtag crew barely got any attention. Ironically, they shine most of the attention on that group onto, would you call him a little person or would you say he's an actual dwarf? Unsure. But he got most of the attention, being a real dwarf in the film as part of his crew, over the main sort of ensemble of people that are dwarves that weren't actually played by dwarves. And to be honest, I mean, I understand CGI and making things maybe a bit easier for them, but one of the actual actors for the CGI little people, whatever they want to be called in this, I'm just going with dwarves because it is the 7 dwarfs. It's, again, no offence or anything like that. I guess there's probably like limited chances for a lot of dwarf actors to star in Hollywood movies, Disney films, and etc. I know Peter Dinklage is like a massive exception. I know Van Troyer did quite well, and the guy who has been in this one, whose name eludes me, he's done quite a lot of stuff as well. But it makes me think there are obviously going to be other ones out there, other talented guys who deserve a chance or whatever, and they just get overlooked for these CGI people. And if the CGI people and the voices behind them were exceptional, I'd fully get it. If it was like 7 people that just had like voices of angels and incredible looks to them, added something that you just couldn't say no to, I'd get, but it didn't. And I felt it really lost it because the faces looked awkward. They didn't look real, but they didn't look animated. They just looked weird. It's hard to explain. It looked like caught in between the two. Like if you bought a cheap phone app and you're trying to like manipulate a picture of your face into a computer game character, it just looked a bit terrible. There's obviously the bit of a twist with Dopey. I didn't mind that too much, to be fair. I thought the Dopey character itself was quite sweet. I couldn't work out if he looked like a young guy or an old man. It was a bit bizarre. But talking about like specific characters, the problem is sometimes with Disney, I think if they've worked with someone before in any sort of film like Marvel, etc., or any other sort of reference they have, if they like an actress, I think they'll try and get them in other films. which I think is a massive mistake. I'm a strong believer on getting the best person in for every role, whether it be a job in retail or a mega movie film. I think you've just got to have the best person in the best roles to make the best things. I think it's pretty common sense. So casting Gal Gadot as the evil queen was just a complete misfire. She's a very, very attractive woman. I've seen a lot of her films. None of them particularly she ever radiates much of a personality. She's quite wooden. I know English isn't her first language, so I'm not knocking her from that, but I just don't feel she suits a lot of the talking roles she gets, and when they've got to pay attention, they have to do lines with emotion. Sorry, one of the cats just screamed. When they've got to do lines with emotions or passion or make a point, I feel that they struggle to deliver it how the scriptwriters and Disney may want it delivered, but they just leave it as it is. Like, she had no force here, and that she didn't feel powerful. She wasn't even like passive aggressive or smarmy or sarcastic in like a cackly way where you could be like, okay, she's playing it a bit of a different way. She was just weak. I mean, she got defeated by a conversation on a bridge and just scrapped off. And I know it's all about like Snow White's not into violence, etc., but it makes no sense. It's a wicked witch. It's a villain of a film, and that's how it ends, with a weak chat on a bridge, which could have just happened day one, really, because there was nothing in the film that made people react differently. It was a chat that everyone was aware of at the start, because everything used to be better. She could have just come out and said it at any point at the start, and most of them would have still agreed the same. So it was just a bit pointless. Yeah, so The Wicked Witch was a flop. The Magic Mirror, that was okay. Is what it is, really. It's just a CGI mirror on a wall, so that was all right. Then you got onto the dwarves. Really discuss the dwarves. I mean, I feel it was quite insulting. I feel that if we're doing an age of inclusivity and you're disregarding what race should be for what roles, and you're mixing that up, which is their prerogative. I don't really have opinions on it. If the film ends up good, fair enough. If it doesn't, then it just looks a bit worse, really. But yeah, I think overlooking sort of legitimate actors for the dwarf roles, I think, was a complete misstep, and I think that could have been done better. The costumes, I think, would have been terrible, judging by what they actually put out on most people. The sets were awful. They just look like they're in a massive green screen at some point. It looked like the set didn't even go right up to the top, and they had to like cut bits off. It almost looked like they maybe were looking at doing something different at some point. Maybe some of the points people were making, or the frustration or wanting the replacement of Rachel, was becoming more of a real thing, and they were looking at doing that, so they were creating ways in which swapping her out of scenes wasn't going to be as difficult in the format they were doing. But when it was all put together, it just looked cheap. If this was a £5 DVD that you got, I don't think you'd be massively disappointed. I think you think, it's all right. But attached to the Disney name, it's absolutely terrible. So getting to the point we made earlier, they went against a Snow White, skin being white as snow. Again, fine if it is the right actress, but they got a woman who obviously has a controversial issues, doesn't respect the source material, which I think is a slap in the face to all Disney fans. Doesn't suit the Snow White character solely, even with the hair bob. That didn't suit the face, her face shape at all. It looked awkward and a bit off. The cheap clothes, her facials, like facial mannerisms, weren't on point. I don't think her reactions to people felt delayed, and again, that could be the fact that she's working with CGI things and it doesn't all sync together perfectly. Whereas if she was working with legitimate actors that were there, it might feel a bit more genuine. So again, I think that was a huge issue. Overall, she was the wrong casting for that job. I don't know who's better off the top of my head. I've seen a lot of talented young women who can sing absolutely beautifully, who are effortlessly more likeable, more natural. I think that's something in the Disney thing. I think you need to have like that, like kind look about you, like the big eyes, the softly spoken, the warmth to you, and she doesn't exude that. She seems to lack it in a way, which again goes against everything you think of Snow White. So I can't see why, unless they'd pre-selected her, why they'd choose her to be this woman. Singing voice was great, but I'm not being funny. There are hundreds and thousands of women, talented singers at a young age. So they've made a massive mistake here. None of it's paid off. They've chosen an actor that has just embarrassed them in all forms. They're sitting on a 1.6 on IMDb, which is one of the worst ratings I've ever seen. But I would also say it is mind-numbingly frustrating, the amount of people that leave negative reviews who clearly don't watch the movie. If you're one of them people, just skip it. If you don't like it, tweet about it, whatever. But on review sites, try and leave them at least legitimate, where you're commenting on a movie that you've seen, not on just like your opinion on what you're sort of reading online. If you're not seeing the movie, don't leave reviews. It's not helpful, and it's quite clearly transparent that you're just copy and pasting other people's views. But I don't think even with that, this film, I don't think it was a 1.6 out of 10. I don't obviously think it was a 7 or 8 out of 10 either. I'd say like a 3.5 out of 10. Oh, I don't know. With the Disney name and stuff, I'd probably go 2.5 to 3.5 out of 10, somewhere around that region. It's not completely unwatchable. If it was your first time watching a Snow White film, you had no idea of the story, you had no idea of the problems with the lead woman, or you're not that fussy on it sticking to the source material, you might think it's a 5 out of 10 movie at best. Except if you've paid 20 quid for it, you won't think that. If you're a huge Disney fan, you won't think that. And if you love Snow White, you won't think that. For them people, you are looking at lower threes, 2.5, 2 out of 10, because not only in the real world they spat in people's faces by the Disney's inability and unwillingness to listen to their passionate fans, they also just presented us with a film that proved everyone right that it was going to be a complete mess. And yeah, I think it's something that needs to be forgotten quite quickly, moved on from. I mean, I love the film so much, I would like another version, but I can't see them doing another version now because it would just be. So, I mean, it'd probably be. I don't even know now how it would work. I don't think we're ever going to get another live version of this for maybe 10, 20 years or whatever, until they start rehashing stuff again. Which is a real shame, because this is the version we've got after waiting, was it 80 years since the original? Which feels even more annoying, because it's nice to have something new to add on to your love of the movie. Like Aladdin wasn't unwatchable or too bad, so you can watch the Return of Jaffa Cakes and the Aladdin Live one, and you've got like a nice little selection. Whereas this, I can't imagine. Well, I think a lot of people will still do it because everyone buys the Disney stuff. I'd only buy this for like when it comes down to like £1, £2 on Amazon or something like that. It's just a real disappointment, and a real embarrassment considering how much Disney says it values kids and values happiness and claims it listens. It's just a bit of a slap in the face, and all involved in it should just really be a little bit ashamed of themselves. So anyway, that was my review of Snow White. When I was thinking about it, it was going to be a lot quicker than this. Any feedback on my style or how you'd want me to split it up would be great. As I say, working on my mental health journey at the moment, I'm using this solely to try and get myself better, get confidence, get self-esteem. So any advice, anything really, criticism you've got, can you at least just be like polite with it? I'm having a back operation in a couple of weeks, which is why I'm a bit larger at the moment. So any criticism, any positivity, anything you like, or any help you can give, sharing, growing, subscribing, honestly will mean everything to me. So until the next video, take care guys.